What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Ranger Talk video. Today I have very special guests. It's Jack and Peter of the mighty Seven Spires. What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man.
Yeah.
The pleasure is all mine, truly. So, I know we were mentioning that you guys just got done from an awesome tour, which I was actually fortunate enough to see you guys in Atlanta. So that was really cool. You guys getting a little bit of rest and relaxation going on here?
A little bit. It's most of it is just catching up from everything that we missed while we were on the road.
Right.
I got back and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna take a week off, not work at all. And then like day two, it was like, oh, I worked all day. Damn.
Yeah, we work a lot of other jobs, so and it's all in the music industry, so there's a lot of hustling to be done, and in order to do a tour like this, we're fortunate enough to have a lot of other stuff to put aside, you know.
Mhm.
But I think we've all been trying to rest, like we've been taking it as easy as we can,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, that must be difficult, trying to put other things to the side to do the tours and stuff. I guess it's cool that, your side gigs and whatnot are understanding of the need to tour or, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
Yeah,
lot
for
of
sure.
stuff that we create ourselves. It's other situations of us, of our artistic or musical sides. So,
Yeah.
so we're still our own bosses and everything, and that's very helpful.
I bet. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, yeah, I want to talk about your release last year, The Gods of Debauchery. Discuss that a little bit. When you guys set out to make that album, what were some of your motivations and goals? From what I gather, the exact previous year, 1 year prior, you released another album. So it was like a back-to-back kind of year thing.
Yeah, we released our second album, Emerald Seas, literally the month before everything shut down from the COVID pandemic, which was, not that great for us. We actually played the first show of tour in support of that album the day everything shut down, and that could have gotten canceled, but we were out with Insomnium and Omnium Gatherum, and these are bands from overseas, so they
Yeah.
flew over to play one show and then had to get sent
Ah,
back home. But our main motivation, other than continuing to further our music and stories that we want to tell and stuff like this, was that we were all at home with now nothing to do and very depressed. And so we just wanted to make something of the time. It's
yeah.
impossible for us to not stay busy, and that seemed like a really good use of our time
Mhm.
because we were all at home. So write music, record music, move forward in some way.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I feel like we kind of have a constant stream of material that is being worked on, or ideas and stuff, and especially Adrian. And so, so I think like it was almost the perfect opportunity, because like that was one of the only times where we could really just not have anything else going on and focus on that.
Right.
Whereas in normal band life, you're juggling tours and other things. So,
Cool. Gave you a little bit of time to catch up, I guess.
right.
Did that whole thing impact the outcome or the direction of the Gods of Debauchery, the whole quarantine and that whole situation, or was this kind of material that you already had somewhat gathered up? It was just kind of flushing
It
it out a little bit.
it was a little of both. Definitely having more time to focus and fine tune the songs and write additional stuff helped a lot, and I think really shaped how the album ended up, and especially the amount of material on the album. We ended up with 17 songs, I think, which is rather insane. But some of it existed before, some of it didn't. But all the recording was also done during quarantine, and so this, actually being able to like go to each other's places and sit down and record in person this time was very helpful too. So a
Mhm.
little bit of both.
Cool. So what is your approach to songwriting? Where does it all kind of begin? How do you determine what direction you want to go to, with each song, or is it just kind of the ideas pop in your head, you jot it down, or do you all get together as a group and are like, all right, here's what we want to do?
It usually starts with so Adrian does most of the writing, and I co-write a lot of stuff, the actual like musical ideas for the songs, and at the point where we've done everything that we can, we send it to the other guys, and Pete and Chris will workshop their parts and like come up with stuff that we couldn't dream of coming up with, and that then influences another rewrite, and we kind of change things based on their ideas. So it is collaborative in a way, but it usually starts with either an idea from Adrian or an idea from me and Adrian, and it goes from there. And we also like to get together and rehearse the songs together in person as much as possible, if we're allowed to. We weren't necessarily allowed to for this last album, but any and all of the above is very helpful. As far as where we decide to go, everything that we do is concept album based. So the songs will actually end up depending on the story that we want to tell. Even though they start out from a relatively personal place lyrically, they do end up having to fit into a particular linear story depending on the album. So yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, with the concepts of the album, do you kind of determine that as you go a little bit, or do you kind of have a general idea in the beginning what concept you're looking to do, and then kind of work from there?
There's usually a general idea that gets more specific as the writing progresses.
Okay. I feel like with Seven Spires, it's a little bit of a tough genre, to pin down that you guys are in, which I think is really cool. It's a nice, diverse, sound that you all have, ranging from like death metal, melodic metal, symphonic metal, and then even, in my opinion, a little bit of pop metal with maybe Lightbringer, and stuff like that. Where does that variety of sound come from? It's just quite diverse, the range of sound that you guys have.
Well, I think it comes from a lot of our influences, but influences are such a complicated and complex thing. There are things that influenced us that are the reason why we work with our instruments and why we have written or done certain things in the past, and then there are the things that we're currently discovering. And so there's this whole spectrum of different influences that usually make up who we are as musicians. I guess the difference is like I think the influences are a lot deeper rooted, where it's we're looking to achieve a certain result. We hear something, and it's never really a direct influence, like, oh, we want to make it this way. It's more you following your ears based on what you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it's almost like a subconscious kind of thing. You hear something that you like, and then it morphs into Seven Spires style of how that was that you heard it. And I was going to ask you all a little bit about the influences and inspirations, both musically and lyrically. But Peter, you're saying there's not really any specific influence or inspiration. It's really just
I mean, we so that's more as it pertains to our writing process, like how we create the stuff.
Yeah.
But of course, I mean, we can list our influences for sure.
Yeah, this would be a very long list. How much time do you have? I'll get the scroll.
All right. I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that we kind of list off to answer this question are usually like somewhere between Camelot and Dimmu Borgir. But we all individually like a lot of different stuff, from jazz to pop, rock, classical music, film scores, all sorts of stuff, and then even just anything that we hear on the radio on any given day can be like, that thing was cool, what if we did something like that in another song? So it's like this weird amalgamation of all of these different things that we just experience that
Right.
get, if something is cool, then we'll want to hear it somewhere else probably. And then the kind of unique part about this band and what I think makes it sound so unique is that all of our tastes individually are very diverse, but then we're somehow able to like mesh it all together into something cohesive that sounds like the four of us, but also one unit, you know? I think this is cool.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly what I mean about the way that influences make their way into it, because we're from such diverse backgrounds for sure. You know, and I think another thing with that is that, you know, since we have such an upbringing as musicians, I think that, you know, when we get into something, we do research, we, you know, explore the whole thing and kind of go pretty deep with it.
Wow.
Whether it's classical music, whether it's film scores, whether it's, you know, whatever it is, it's stuff that we actively have our hands on in some capacity. So.
Cool. You know, it's funny, Jack, that you mentioned Camelot, because I was going to ask how the whole, you know, collab with legendary Roy Khan, you know, came to be on This God Is Dead. Was that something that you guys consciously were like, that's who we want to get for one of the songs, or did that just end up falling into your laps?
Well, we had so we had the song basically almost done, and we had a character. Basically, Roy ended up voicing the ghost of the main character's father from beyond the grave, kind of singing and reassuring that everything's going to be okay. And we had an idea of who we wanted to sing this part, and it was originally written for someone else. We asked them, and they weren't available to do it. But then we thought, okay, if our first choice wasn't there, who in the world could we possibly get to do this? And I think I suggested, I mean, the worst he could say is no. What if we ask Roy Khan?
Right.
And it kind of took a while to build up the courage to ask this, but we, you know, we like rewrote the section in the parts to suit his voice better and stuff like this.
Yeah.
But it actually ended up working out really perfectly. Our mix engineer for a long time and our good friend Sasha Paeth worked on all those classic Camelot albums. And we basically asked if he still had Roy's contact info. And he said, this is a really old email address. I don't know if he still uses it, but good luck. And Adrian just drafted up an email for him and said, we have this song. We would love you to sing on it. It's about this, you know, and it went from there. And he was super into it, asked a lot about the ideas for the song, asked about the melodies, these kind of things, and was just super kind and nice the whole way. So it was really great. And I think it came out perfect.
Wow. Awesome. Yeah. I mean, it definitely did, for sure. You know, I was going to ask you guys also, you know, because I had the pleasure of seeing y'all live, you know, I know that, you know, there's a lot of power, you know, in the album, the Gods of Debauchery, you know, in the studio sound. You know, you guys bring a lot of brutality and power to it, in depth. And live, I mean, it is the same thing. I mean, it just that power, you know, you feel it, and the audience feels it. And, you know, I think, yeah, I could look around and seeing everyone like really responding to it. So how do you guys really take that sound, that essence, that strength, that brutality or whatnot, and bring it live?
It's actually kind of the opposite, in that the whole goal with the album is to try and make the album sound as exciting and as powerful as a live show. We, you know, I ended up engineering and recording a lot of the Spires stuff just because it's easy for me to do that. But the goal is to make it sound like the four of us playing together, and that is easier to translate. Like, that comes across easily live, but not necessarily as easily in the studio because you're all recording individually. So it's a little bit of Sasha's assistance, and it's a little bit of trial and error and effort to make the album sound like the live show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think that it is the other way around, and I'm glad you mentioned that. What I would say is that it's just our sound. I mean, whether it's a rehearsal or you know, or a show, or when we're working on these things, you know, laying each part for the album, like it's always pretty consistent for us, because I think it's something that is, again, very deep rooted, and it's what we do. And I think it's really great to work with, all together for that reason, because we're all kind of on the same level when it comes to, um, actually playing the stuff,
Yeah. And even thinking about it, like we're all always thinking about, how is this going to work live? What do I need to be focusing on when coming up with this part so that it translates well to everything that we have to do with it?
hmm Yeah, I mean, that's why we try to run the songs in person before recording everything. So,
Oh, right, right.
yeah.
Nice. Um, what, you guys really seem to evolve over time, as one, or, one would expect to, ideally, right? um, what have you learned from, the Gods of Debauchery, from the experience of creating that album that you think you might want to carry forward or expand upon in the future, if anything?
That's a very difficult question.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
I mean, I guess the only thing that could be said from me on this is the fact that, you know, we're gonna progress no matter what. This is kind of just how, when you're involved in a craft, or something like that, this is just how it happens as long as you continue to do it. And the thing is that we've been really, more precisely defining our sound and getting better at the method for doing that. And so, and I think that people are really resonating more than ever, and our points are coming across clearer than ever. So I think going forward, to try and perpetuate that is the goal.
hmm And it on like to kind of further that, I think we're all trying to always one up ourselves, like musically as like instrumentalists, but also songwriting wise and artwork wise and live show wise and all this stuff. We never want to like say, all right, that was great. Let's just do that again, but slightly differently. Like this will not fly. Where like it's not done until it's better than what we did before, you know. And whatever that means for us, it's all different shades on the color palette, but we just want it to be, we want to feel like we're doing better than the last thing we did.
Right, right. And and we all live in different parts of the country, so sometimes it'll be a little bit before we see each other again, and every single time it's like, whoa, you got way better,
Yeah.
or so, like something like that. So like the other people notice this too.
Cool. Yeah, constantly pushing yourself.
Yeah, we just exactly.
How did you all meet up to begin with? That since you mentioned that you're all in different parts of the country, was it always that way, or at one point in time were you guys closer together? Or?
We all went to Berklee College of Music in Boston. So
Okay.
that's sort of where we all met. Adrian and I met first actually in the bookstore at the school during her first semester. And we kind of clicked pretty instantly and started thinking about putting a band together. And she had all these concepts and ideas for the sound and the music and stuff. We went through a few different lineups until we found Peter and we found Chris. And then that's when I think everything really kind of clicked and solidified into what became the band as it is now. And so I think Pete, I actually met you like way before I even met Adrian, and then we lost touch for a few years, and then you were at an Arch Enemy show that we were opening for, and we reconnected a little bit. And at that time, we happened to need a bass player, and I was like, "Oh shit, right, Pete's a really good bass player." Hello.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I mean, and we were pretty young, and the band was pretty young at the time as well. And it's actually the same with Adrian and Chris, where they had known each other before, for like a year or something like that. And so we were all kind of connected in some way, but it was mostly geographically speaking. That was how we came together, and we're lucky that the sort of the metal scene in New England at the time, it is still very strong, but at that time too, that was something that was great. We were able to play a lot of shows just like getting started and stuff like that. So yeah.
Cool. You know, vocally, do you know how Adrian really kind of determines, you know, because she's got the real harsh, you know, the growls and stuff, but then she'll switch over to, you know, the more, you know, melodic or, you know, clean vocal style, which is quite impressive, you know, in my opinion. That always blows my mind when you hear somebody growling like that and then they start singing clean. It's just like, wow, that, you know, do you know how she determines, you know, when to do which, you know, in the songs, or is just does that just happen naturally?
I think for her, you know, not to speak for her or anything, but the way she's explained it before is that certain styles of singing, certain ways of enunciating, like, you know, even growls or cleans, or like gritty clean singing versus operatic style, these things all hold different, you know, potential emotional weights. And so depending on the lyric or the energy needed for the song, she'll pick one of these techniques to like deliver the impact that she wants. And Pete's actually been singing quite a lot on the last tour, and you know, really getting fucking good at it. So you can probably speak a little better than me on this, actually.
Well, right on, right on. Yeah, you know, again, not to speak for Adrian, but these things are really just techniques. So in a lot of ways, they come naturally once you become familiar with these techniques. And you know, as Jack said, on this tour, I started doing death metal vocals and clean singing. And there's lots of different ways to sing, and there's lots of different ways to do, you know, to structure your mouth for any kind of death metal vocal stuff. And it usually comes pretty naturally, like but you should always feel around. So I think that you know, and especially because of the fact that we write concept albums, a lot of the concept or the you know, the setting, the whatever it is that we're trying to convey, that's usually what informs the overall tone, and that informs the vocal style.
Super cool. Yeah, makes sense for sure.
Yeah, and it's not like there's a right or wrong with that either. Like,
Right.
you know, other artists, other bands might choose the complete opposite or something slightly different, and that's what I think makes each, you know, artist unique with this.
Yeah.
So it's nobody would pick the same way that Adrian decided to pick it, and that's what's cool.
Yeah, it's very personalized. Yeah, for sure. So what's next for you guys? You know, you dropped the Gods of Debauchery last year. You're just coming off a nice tour with Dragon Force, and you know, what do you got coming down the pipeline here?
Well, we were chatting before we started recording about we're doing Prague Power USA in a couple of weeks. Day 2 with Stradivarius, Pain of Salvation.
Awesome.
Amazing festival. I recommend everybody listening go buy a ticket, or, you know, try to attend in an upcoming year or something like this. It's fantastic. We're doing that, and then a lot of us have like other summer commitments. You know, Adrian's going out with Avantasia. Pete, I think you're doing some European festivals as well.
Yeah.
And I'm back to mixing albums for a little bit, and you know, most of the summer is that, and then later on in the year we have some more touring going on, and writing new music, stuff like this. The wheels are always turning.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah, I have one viewer question here, actually. I always pose, you know, I always let you know, my viewers and stuff know if I got a chat coming up or whatnot, so they have the opportunity to submit questions. I just think it's something kind of nifty. So I got one here. I'm not sure how much of this you guys can answer, but Joe Stahl would like to know, what direction are you taking the next album in terms of sound, vocal style, and theme? If you guys even know quite yet.
Yeah, we only just started writing, you know, like seriously thinking about writing a little bit ago, like a few days ago. So
Wow.
it's still pretty fresh, but we really like how Gods of Debauchery came out, and I don't think it's going to be anything crazy different in a different direction. Hopefully, it's just more and better of what we've kind of already established here. Which, you know, sounds like, oh yeah, more of the same, but you know,
Yeah.
hopefully it's you know, just as good, if not better. And you can probably expect some similar stuff from us, some maybe more technical parts and also more softer parts and heavier parts and happier parts. And,
Oh, okay.
you know,
Yeah, I think that with every album that we've released so far, um, there's been, it's like each one feels like a footstep, in the path for me at least. And I think that with this next album, it'll be a step of the same distance. It's just like I said, we're getting better at communicating these things, and
Yeah.
the techniques behind them, the concepts themselves. I mean, Adrian it seems to always have something that in the back of the mind or in the front of her mind about what we're working on, and so I'm really excited for the process, and I think it's going to be a very cool.
yeah.
As
You can expect to probably cry a little bit and
Oh.
stank face a little bit and then thank us for both.
Mhm.
And then thank you for okay. That's intriguing. All right, awesome. Well, you guys totally rock. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me, truly. And yeah, so folks, everything Seven Spires, I'm gonna put it down in the description down below. Social media, links to music videos, all that stuff. And as you heard, you can catch them at Prague Power coming up here. Day 2, you guys said, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, day 2.
Day 2. So yeah, if you're in the States or just flying in from somewhere else, check them out. And yeah, go have a ball looking at their social media and all that stuff. And yeah, so that's what I got for y'all this time, and I'll catch you all later. Ranger out.